In today's episode, I'm inviting you to hear a wonderful story about an artist who's really made her mark right here from Long Island and in the whole region and area. She overcame stage fright. She took advantage of these unbelievable opportunities. And there were so many twists and turns in this interview. I didn't know where the heck we were going. I know you're going to enjoy it. Come, check it out. Hey, everybody. I'm really excited about the guest I have today because I have like the 6 degrees of separation to our guest. In fact, I'm wearing one of the 6 degrees of separation right here. Pete, man, the great.
It's his
Pete.
birthday today.
It's his birthday, and I did wish him happy birthday.
Yes.
You're not supposed to talk yet until I introduce you.
Sorry.
Oh, man.
I never said anything.
Oh, this is going to be
That damn
horrible.
Pete, he's always getting me in trouble.
I want to, well, let me tell you a little bit about her. They say she brings little Nashville to Long Island. She has an absolutely beautiful voice and a great sound. And I want to welcome Sarah Gross to the Long Island Sound Podcast. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
You are definitely one of what I would say the cream of the crop wellspring of talent that comes from Long Island. And I'm really happy that you agreed to come on the pod.
Thank you. That's very high praise.
No. Well deserved. And before we really kick in, I want to remind the audience, hey, if you know Sarah, you appreciate her music, leave a comment below because I engage with every comment, good and bad. Most are good. And also in the description, you'll have all the links to Sarah's music as well as sarahgrossmusic.com, which I believe is your website, and we'll go from there. Hey, I not always ask this, but at what point in your life, how old were you when you said, hey, I think I can sing and play music and write songs? When did it kind of kick in for you, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I always had music around. My mom played the flute. My older brother played guitar and was writing songs, and No, my dad has a great ear, whether he'd like to admit it or not. But I know he has a really good ear. He was always playing Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty and Neil Young around the house. So I kind of knew.
I love your dad already.
I know. No, he's the coolest. And so I knew a little bit about what rock and roll was. And I was a dancer. So growing up, I was a competitive dancer for about 10 or so years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I was always drawn to music and art and being creative and all of the ways that they kind of fed into each other. And then around maybe when I was 12 years old, I picked up the guitar. I saw my older brother doing it. And I thought, well, I have to do that because he did it. So,
of course.
And that's kind of how it started. And then I started just learning by ear and YouTube tutorials on how to play Taylor Swift songs, of course. And then it turned into songwriting and producing and all of that other nonsense. So
wow. So right at that key point in adolescence, it kind of kicked in for you, which I think is just a fruitful time of your life because everything you just opened up to a lot of things. You know, I in doing my homework on you and listening to some other interviews you had, a couple of things kind of jumped out at me. One, transparency. One, how you're a storyteller, which every great artist, every great songwriter has to be a great storyteller, if not in person in their music. And I got to quote your mom. We start off quote. You know what I'm going to say. Your mom's advice. My mom's advice was, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it. Your mom said, if you don't have something nice to say, put it in a song.
Yes, she does say that.
So doing that, can you talk to me about your philosophy and your songwriting process and how it was early in your songwriting and how it is today? Has it evolved?
Yeah, I think when I first started songwriting, I wasn't super conscious. I really was just doing it because my heart was telling me to. And I was a teenager and I never really expected that the songs would go anywhere. Despite being a dancer, I had immense stage fright for a very long time.
Oh, wow.
As a performer when it came to singing. And so I really was just writing for myself. And then I think when I was in college, I started to actually think about what songwriting felt like and the craft of that. And that came from collaborating with other people and then realizing that I needed to explain the process behind my songs. Why was I saying this specific thing? And I started to realize that I think a lot like I'm writing an essay in my English class when it comes to songwriting. So I will often write an outline of the characters, the message, the who, what, where, when, why kind of thing. And then I'll work around that. And that doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes songs just kind of flow out of you just in one shot.
Right.
It always feels like it's a little bit different, but I think for the most part, I'm always kind of coming at it with like a literary standpoint.
Interesting. You know, in some of the other quotes that popped out of me, it's almost like a journal entries of you talking to strangers was a quote that you had out there. And what I always found interesting, and I used to, believe it or not, write poetry when I was in college. And for me, I was driven by, I felt like nobody was listening to me. And I wanted to, meet girls. And so I thought that would be, it didn't work. It didn't work. You know, I was kind of being romantic. Oh, I'll hit them with some, it didn't work for me. Well, that's another story. Honorable effort. But I guess what I'm getting to is I find, at least myself and younger songwriters, that it's very much, hey, what's happening to me? This is what I'm feeling, that sort of thing. And then it can go in a direction of characters that you create and things that you don't experience, but your imagination drives you to tell a different story. Is that true with you as well?
Absolutely say so. I always take my experiences with a grain of salt.
Okay.
And maybe some can say that's a defense mechanism, trying to permeate a sad experience that might have happened to you. But I also feel like it's an opportunity to take whatever emotions that you're feeling and channel it into whatever way that you want to. And I think with my songs, the spark is always a feeling that has happened to me that I've gone through. I don't think that you could write about something that you truly have no connection to, at least, or something that doesn't resonate with you. But I think that you can tell the story however you want to. And we see that with books, with movies, with TV shows. We don't ever criticize those writers for not being Batman or a wizard or a dragon. But they've all approached it with something genuine. And I think that you could hear that in music, no matter what it is.
Yeah. Keying in on that word genuine, and as a music lover, being a music lover, there's nothing that really gets me going in a great way is when I sense a certain amount of vulnerability and transparency in music, and in particular in what you deliver on stage, and I'll just tell you a quick story. I used to write sermons and stuff like that. It's another story. But tell me if this has ever happened to you. I've written something that was so emotional, I get choked up about it. Whether it's a poem, and I said this to my daughter, I said, am I nuts? Is this like so narcissistic and choking up on my own words? She said, no, Dad, you're crazy. But no, it's not. Have you found that as well?
Yeah.
And then the other thing, how do you keep it in check when you're pulling back you're revisiting emotions in a song that can be tough, and yet you're delivering it out to a crowd? How do you do that balance?
Yeah, I mean, I guess to the first part of your question, yes, I've definitely experienced that. A lot of times when I'm singing something, extremely personal or close to heart, it will affect me at different times in my life. There's certain songs I feel like, and if you ask other songwriters this, you might see like songs almost have little shelf lives for you. And then sometimes they come back, they get renewed and they have new meaning. And it's almost like a premonition, like you wrote something before and then it comes back and then you find this is what I really wanted to say, or this is what I needed to hear right now. And it'll affect you. And I definitely said I am nervous to play live because they're so emotional and I'm, literally digging through my emotional baggage when I was writing the song. And now I'm in front of a bunch of people trying to tell them about it. And I think that's where the vulnerability is. And that I think is why, many people, and I think every artist kind of deals with that on stage.
Right.
I think when it comes to composing myself in that moment, I have kind of learned to look at performing in one of two ways of I could just have fun right now. I could just really appreciate this moment, or I could let the fear win. And
Right.
sometimes the fear does win, but you always have to choose the experience to make it through.
Interesting. Wow. Interesting thought. The one thing that jumped out at me as well was you said, a song has a shelf life. And I was thinking about, whether it's a scripture, story that I've heard or a children's story that I've heard, 1,000 times. The thing for me is I'm a different person today than when I heard it the first or 10th or 100th time.
Mm-hmm.
And, I may get something if you're open to it, I may get something fresh and new from a different perspective looking at that song, at that story, at that performance, and, it ties into, and what I preach music discovery. At my age, I'm an older guy, it's very easy. Maybe you've seen this with your dad, talked about bust your dad's chops remotely. And we'll see if he's listening to this.
He probably will.
I found myself getting in the rut of listening to the same music that I did when I was in high school. And I love Neil Young and I love Bruce Springsteen and I love that. And there's a time for that. But then I was kicking myself in the ass saying, wow, I'm getting pretty stale because this is all I listened to. And then boom, the cataracts came off the eyes, so to speak. And I got to hear artists like yourself and Pete Mancini and Delaney Hafner and the Bell Curves. And I can go on and on and on. And I talk about the wellspring of talent. There really is a wellspring of talent of here on Long Island. Anyway, I want to switch gears. You talked about stage fright, right? I do want to talk about the fact that you played with or you were singing with, who am I going to say?
Zach Bryan
at UBS Arena. But let's leave that as a cliffhanger. How do you like that?
Sure.
Tell me about the stage fright. Tell me how you overcame it. Do you worry? Do you have anxiety about it coming back? Or is it, it's kind of a phase I went through?
Yeah, it really there is no trick. There is no cracking the code. You just got to do it. And there's no way to prepare you for it. Honestly, it sounds like a harsh truth, but when people ask me, how do I overcome stage fright? Go on stage.
jump out of the plane. You afraid of heights? Jump out of the plane.
And but there are, a couple of things like I've heard once the first song is always the hardest and you just got to get through the verse and the chorus, really. And then then you're cooking. But also these people are not there to judge you or mock you or degrade you. And if they are, then fuck them. Why are you here? And I think that is the lesson that I have learned. And that's just coming from doing it over and over again.
Right.
I used to play, there was a restaurant called the Flying Pig in Miller Place. And I would think I was about 17 when I started to play there, but I had a little bit of a residency, and that was my job at the Flying Pig.
Boy, I hope it had barbecue.
Actually, no. It was a brunch spot. It was delicious. I'm so sad it closed. But they took a chance on me. I had never really played out very much. I was just starting to learn how to play the guitar and sing at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And, it would be many, many nights of just basically my parents were the only people there, or my boyfriend who drove me to all of my gigs. I feel so grateful for those gigs because even though nobody was listening and I wasn't, who the musician that I am today, I just got like a safe place where I could cut my teeth a little bit. And I think that can be the hardest environment to sing in when you know that nobody is listening and it feels like you're just kind of screaming into the void. And I think, if I could do that, then I could do anything.
Right. It's, it's amazing. And I equate singing in public to like public speaking, can be one of the most frightful things for people. And I had a really good friend of mine who really coached me early on in my sales career of saying, you know what? They want to see you succeed at the audience. They really want, and sometimes you need to catch eyes with someone who's going to be your cheerleader. And, some of the tactics, at least that I use, and I've seen other entertainers do that, they work the room even before they get on stage, or during a break, they make that connection. And you can see people I've seen it. I've seen entertainers come off stage and people eager to they got that stupid grin on their face to, I met Sarah Gross. Oh yes. She was singing to me. That was for me, that song, So I think that's kind of key. All right. So we talked about the stage fright. Now bring me back to that time at the UBS Arena, if you will. How the hell did that come about? Yeah, tell me about it.
I'll try and give you the Spark Notes version.
Okay. You had to pay him first? Is that you had to
Oh yeah, I have
buck up a lot of money. Yeah, that's what I'm
throw around.
That's what I'm figuring. A little payola got you on stage, right? Or dad,
Oh yeah. That would be the easy answer, honestly. But
Right.
It really was just a right place, right time. So I went to the show the day before with my friends.
Okay.
And I knew his music. I was a fan. I truly had no idea what was going on when I went to the concert. I just thought I was going to see a show.
All right.
And my friend says to me, hey, they're having a tailgate in the parking lot. We should go. So I figured free beer. Why not?
Hey, count me in.
And I see his dad, who I think it's his dad. It's just a man that looks like Zach Bryan, but he's holding a guitar and he's walking around kind of with a little bit of authority. So I kind of put two and two together. I think that might be his dad. And I just went up to him and my friends are in the corner laughing at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe he'll upgrade our seats or something. And so I went up to him and I just started striking conversation, not with any intention of anything. And we just got to chatting. I mentioned I was a musician and he said, you're a musician? I have a guitar. Why don't you play for the parking lot right now?
Oh, come on.
Okay. So sure enough, he takes out the guitar. I start singing. It turned into an hour-long jam session. Just people started gathering around and hanging out. And he said, come back tomorrow. Play the tailgate for real. Bring your family. We'll get you into the show. But let's do this, proper. So I did. Still had no idea of me getting on stage at all.
Right.
That wasn't even a thought in my mind.
Okay.
And I was sitting there watching the openers after the tailgate was finished. And I get a call from Dwayne and he said, are you ready for this? Because I've been sending Zach videos of you singing for the last 2 days. And
now you haven't met Zach at this point, right?
No.
Okay. All right, good.
They're going to go on stage in 15 minutes when I get this phone call.
Wow.
And, yeah. And so I threw my chicken fingers in the trash. I ran over. I did get to meet him very briefly. And, he said to me, is this going to go well or not? I said,
no pressure.
He said, but he was being nice about it, truly.
Right.
He was like, some people get up there and they just get really nervous and
freeze.
And they freeze. And some people do really well. So I'm just curious if you have any idea of what it's going to be tonight. And I said, I feel ready for this. I feel like I've been,
I was born for this.
I feel like I was, setting up my Barbies and putting on rock concerts since I was a little kid. I can't imagine this would be any different. So, and he was very encouraging. The staff really was so supportive and excited. And I'm so glad that I picked a cute outfit for that day. No rehearsal. Right. I just went on stage and did it. And
no sound check. No, just
nope.
There you are. There you are in the limelight.
Hope it goes well.
And I assume it went well, right?
Yeah, it did.
How many songs did you play and what did you play?
Just one. It was I Remember Everything. It's a duet that he does with Casey Musgraves.
I see. Nice. Throwing a little shine his way. Nice. Oh, that's great. And you know what? You know, it's so funny to me. Thanks for relaying that story is, artists do so much social media. You don't really know who's hitting it, but there you are. I don't know how many people in there, 3,000 maybe, right?
About 20.
Oh, that's all. Okay. 20,000 people, probably the biggest audience you've ever played.
1,000%.
And wow, I'm so happy for you. That's great.
Thank you.
What a great story. Hey, now we got to throw some love to Delaney Hafner and her dad.
Yes.
Delaney was on my on the Long Island Sound podcast really early on. In fact, I screwed up. I think it was like a Saturday morning, and all of a sudden she's like, "I'm here. Are you there?"
Very punctual, that one.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Well, I've made every mistake you can make podcasting, but she and the Bell Curves, great. Tell me about your relationship. About her dad's into recording. Dad plays guitar and stuff like that. I saw them play. Where did I see them? I saw them play at my father's place. They opened up, I think, with Pete at one point for when he did the Birds thing. Not the Birds thing,
Yes,
but the
the
Gene
tribute.
Clark. The Gene Clark thing, which is really, really great. I could talk
Yes.
about that for days. But give me the relationship there and how the recording, and I think you studied recording, how that all came
Yes.
about for you, and how does that really kind of help you out?
I can't say enough good things about that family. They really became a mentor to me, both of them. So Delaney's mom, Kathy, was the producer of my high school musical.
Okay.
And I was just, in the ensemble at this point. Like I said, I wasn't too keen on the singing in public thing yet.
Right.
But she saw something in me, and she was friends with my mom on Facebook. And I started to upload some of my original music onto SoundCloud. I had my grandma's iPod Touch and those cute little...
I actually know what that is. Yeah.
Yep. iPod headphones with the little microphone in it.
Right.
And I was so excited. I realized there was a way that I could play and sing and put harmonies on it. And that started to pique my interest a little bit in recording my music. And my mom, I guess, shared it to Facebook, and Kathy saw it. And I went into rehearsal the next day, and she goes, "You didn't tell me that you could write music." I said, "I don't know. I didn't really think much of it." And she said, "My husband and my daughter have a recording studio in our garage. Would you like to come and record something?"
Oh, wow.
And I was just blown away. I thought this was only something you could do in like California or
or
Nashville.
New York.
Yeah. I thought only famous people could do that. So I went to their house, and they, for free, they didn't charge me a dime. They just wanted me to get excited about it.
Yeah,
See what was out there. Delaney was studying audio engineering at the time at Purchase.
Okay.
And I started to work with Bill, and Delaney would come back and, play on my songs. And then I started to sing a little bit in Panda Fan, and we still all play together. We're about to go on tour together next week.
Nice.
And, they've become like a second family to me, really. I just couldn't ask for better people to show me the reins and help me in this industry.
Right. So now you went to college. Didn't you study some audio engineering as well? And where'd you go?
Yeah. I went to Syracuse University.
Great. Dinosaur Barbecue. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I had and East Syracuse is really the Syracuse to go to, in my opinion.
Yes. Oh man, I love it. It's one of the places that we're going to be playing at next week. Not Dinosaurs,
really?
but in Syracuse.
In Syracuse, that whole upstate. So I was fortunate enough early in my business career to do the whole turnpike thing from Buffalo down back to New York and the Finger Lakes region and Woodstock and Hurley and all these other places, which we're going to talk about. I want to talk about that studio.
Yes.
The Dreamland.
Dreamland.
I checked out their website. And again, I'm sorry, I'm going to remind the audience, you're going to sing links for this stuff. Please comment on what we're talking about or anything, really. And anyway, we'll jump to the studio. But so we're still talking about Delaney and Bill, and it's great that you have that relationship and you continue on with that. And I think it's so really neat, the different venues. And I was talking to another artist just last night, and talking about, sometimes you have to leave your hometown to get some decent recognition outside of, the neighborhood places. And it appears that that's what you're doing with your touring, you're getting that exposure out and about. And you certainly got some great followers on Spotify and the thing. I got to ask you this question. This is like I'm sorry. I go in 14 directions. That's to keep you off kilter, by the way.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I don't want you to get too settled. I'm listening to your music on Spotify, and then off in the corner, I'm seeing like this looping video. Do you do that for every song?
The canvas?
Yeah. Is that what that is? Yeah. Explain to the old guy what the hell that is. Will you?
Yeah. It's all visuals that you can add to your music on Spotify.
I see. Because there's Spotify for artists where you can put like a little trail, a 30-second trail up. I heard about that. It kind of cool stuff. Now, up until this point, you've kind of had a magical life, really being in the right place at the right time. But it can't be all peaches, cream, and cotton candy.
Right.
And I want to talk about Naysayers, Trolls, and your song Dog Ear, which talks about resilience. And maybe you can kind of give us both sides of the coin, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I mean, I started to write Dog Ear right after I graduated college. And I spent a lot of time going up and down William Floyd Parkway when I was still living in Mastic Beach, and just, going to my gigs and trying to just figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And, everybody else that I graduated school with was looking for jobs and, what normal people do.
Right.
And
that's the path you should follow.
Of course. And
right.
My parents are teachers, and my whole family, they're all teachers. And so it was always a clear-cut path. You go to school, you get your master's, you teach, you retire. That's the whole thing. And so I knew that I was choosing a path that was not very cut and dry, and you take so many twists and turns, and it really is just not that simple. And I definitely had some people that questioned that. Are you sure? That still question that despite everything. They say, there's still time. You could get a nice cushy job and not have to do all of this.
Yeah. What's your plan B in case this singing thing doesn't work out? How many conversations have you had about like that? Right.
You'd be surprised. Most of those people are musicians. They're people that see, what I'm doing and what I'm going for. And they said, yeah, I tried that. It doesn't work. Good luck. And, you should probably try and find like a decent job, or maybe just teach lessons or something. And right. I just look back at them and I say, I have to do this. I never had a plan B. I think if you have a plan B, you're admitting that you think you're going to fail. And I'm not going to do that to myself because I believe in myself more than that.
It's funny. I'm seeing that thread of what you're saying now, no plan B, and how you tackled stage fright. It's like you just do it, right? You just do it. It's like, somebody said, hey, maybe you should try welding because, welders make a lot of money, or a plumber because, you could sing and be a welder at the same time. I give you a lot of kudos in your resilience and your determination, because I think that really can carry you through the naysayers. Hey, listen, I think anybody who's creative is going to have a naysayer. What would you do that for? Or,
right.
Hey, how much did you make doing that?
Yeah.
That kills me. They say that about a podcast, So you monetized yet? It's like, I say, you know what? I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy the puzzle of artists and musicians and those who can develop the muse and have woodshedded their craft and all that stuff. And, it's just amazing what you do, Hey, if we can go in this direction, I understand you're engaged. Is this true?
Yes, I am.
I want to say congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And do you want to go in that direction? Is that a safe place to go? Because going through college, knowing what all the hours and hours I did researching you.
Boy.
I'm telling
You
you.
probably know me better than I know me.
Well, we can go there. We can just, if you have a couch, just lay down on the couch and you'll have a session with Steve.
Cheaper than therapy.
Sometimes it goes in that direction on a podcast. It's just kind of amazing. But
Sure.
But tell me, I'm going to read a statement because it came up. Okay, you mentioned feeling you've always been queer, but didn't have the language for it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're comfortable in talking about that, great, because I think in these trying times, it's difficult where the doors were kind of opening up and people were more accepting of the lifestyle, and it's a little scary out there. So if you don't mind sharing your journey and talk about Chris and how's it affected your journey in music, that'd be kind of cool. I think it would help people as well.
I'd love to.
Thank you.
Think I've always known somewhere in me, whether I knew it or not, that I was just different than other people. And I viewed the world just a little bit differently. And growing up, I was always around other queer people. I was always gravitated towards them. And I felt safe around these people. And originally I just thought, well, maybe it's because I kind of feel like an outcast sometimes. I was very shy and I really just didn't know quite who I was. And I just wasn't as interested in the things that the other kids were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And being around queer people made me feel like I could be myself.
Interesting.
I got to college and then the pandemic hit while I was in college.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And I had a lot of time to think. And, I started to meet people from other walks of life and hear their experiences. And, I realized most of my friends in college were also queer. And I really started to think about why that was. And I think during the pandemic, we started to open up our language about a lot of things.
Okay.
I think we all started to become a little more informed about everything. I feel like every time I open Instagram, it was like another infographic, and that kind of would spark my curiosity and lead me to do my own research about, well, what is this and why should we be doing this or why shouldn't we be doing this? And then when it came to being queer, I started to realize that being queer has a lot to do with the way that you look at the world as well as your sexuality. And a lot of that for me came down to gender and learning really what the gender binary that we've been taught was and how that affects kind of our everyday life and the way that we treat ourselves. And for me, I just kind of realized that didn't really work for me. And I started to think, well, what am I actually attracted to in people? What do I actually find appealing? And I realized it had absolutely nothing to do with their gender. And I started to backtrack and think about what were some of the female friendships that I've had and what were some of the experiences that I've had with other women that really impacted me. And was there something more to that? And for some of them, definitely. And some of them, no. But I think that when I started to do a little bit of the digging onto myself and the way that, those relationships affected me, I realized that it had nothing to do with gender and it was because I was queer.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I still feel that way. And I, in the meanwhile, I'm in this relationship with my now fiance, Chris. And we had been dating, I think, for like 5 years at that point. And I adore this man. He is literally like salt of the earth person. I'm so happy that we're getting married,
Now you're blowing me away here because I'm thinking about SNL and it's just Pat. And I'm assuming Chris is a female.
Oh, no, Chris is no.
You follow me? You follow me?
Sure.
I'm like, we're going down this road and you take a right turn.
I know.
What
You're
the hell?
Confused. Imagine how confused I am.
All right, that's another cliffhanger. Oh my God, we're gonna have so many great reels out of this interview. So Chris is a guy.
Chris is a guy. Chris and I have been dating since I was 15, and before I kind of realized this thing about myself.
Okay.
And we broke up here and there, but
Not since the engagement, though.
Not since the engagement.
Okay, all right. Because I want to be clear, because you're screwing with me here.
Yes. No, I came out to Chris and I said, I think I'm a little gay.
Just a little.
He's like, Sarah, I think you are.
Degrees of gayness.
Yes.
So you're like 15% gay?
I don't know. I think, I could be like 60% on a Tuesday and 10% on a Wednesday. I don't really think it really.
I'm flabbergasted here. But now I got to give you some history here. Is that, I came from a time where the closet doors were closed. Mm-hmm. Very difficult for people. Closet doors are open. Some people are trying to shut that door. Mm-hmm. which is a horrible thing, trying to erase people, not to get negative on it, but that's the world that we're in right now.
Absolutely.
And the fact, this thread keeps on going back to your transparency and vulnerability. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you sharing this journey with us. What's this guy Chris like? Is he a little gay? Is he gay too?
No, he actually, well, that was one of the things. I was like, don't you ever wonder? And he's like, no. And I think what really solidified me in my queerness was realizing that there actually are straight people out there, and they're just straight.
I've heard.
I can't believe this. This is blowing my mind. So,
well, I have a confession. I'm straight.
That's all right.
And that's okay.
Hey,
thanks.
You're safe in my home.
I have a safe place at Sarah Gross's house.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But no,
who the hell knew it would go in this direction?
Me, always. I feel like it always. You mean me oversharing? I would never.
No. What's,
Right. No, but Chris is probably the opposite of me in a lot of ways. He's very logical. He is a math guy, very grounded.
A what guy?
A math guy.
A math guy. Oh, I hate those
Addition,
people.
Subtraction.
Oh, I'm horrible at math.
Couldn't be me. And thank God that one of us is capable of being an adult. He is not a musician whatsoever. And for some reason, it works. I think it's an opposites attract kind of thing.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you, especially for a marriage. It's important to have that yin and yang aspect of things. It'll drive you nuts, both each other in different ways. But yeah, if one spouse can pick up that, as my wife knows, I'm horrible at finances. She's got all the finances and she's got it down. And
nice.
And have you set a date yet or no?
Yes, we have. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you need a wedding officiant, I know a guy.
Oh, nice.
Just
good to know.
Just saying, many weddings under my belt.
That's good to know.
No,
you are getting married in a church, though.
I used to marry people in churches.
Were you a priest?
I was a deacon in the Catholic Church.
Oh my goodness! Then this could have really happened.
It could have not. I'm no longer.
You're not practicing.
I was asked not to practice. That's a subject for a whole nother episode. Yeah, I was a deacon for like 4 years.
That's crazy.
Baptisms, weddings, funerals, wakes, the whole 9 yards.
You're seasoned.
I'm a seasoned guy. I used to wear dresses.
Nice. Hey, safe space.
So kooky. Hey, so where do we go with this now?
Tell me.
Tell me about your latest song that you've released, so we can point people to it, and then tell me about what you got coming up in the tour. I'm interested in that as well, so people can listen to this kooky broad that's queer, not queer, getting married, guy, girl. What the hell?
Yes. So I just released an EP about maybe a month ago or so. I don't know what day it is.
It is. Yeah. It's what the hell is it? It's Wednesday.
Great.
But we're going to pretend, because this is, whenever this gets released, that's the...
Sure. So I released an EP in March called The Library, and it's about 5 songs. And I wrote it inspired by a saying that my grandmother has. So my grandma says that we need to write down all of our familial anecdotes and our history and all of the memories that we have, because when she goes, the library is closed and the library is her brain.
Yeah.
And it really got me thinking just a little bit about, the way that we tell our story and how it is such a special thing that we get to be storytellers in that way, and kind of immortalize some of these experiences through music. And I wrote much of the EP inspired by that. So there's
nice homage to Grandma. Now I got to ask you this, because I think I got it right. When I'm watching Spotify, there's a picture of you in front of these windows with cross panes. Is that the Southampton Library?
It's not the Southampton Library.
Oh, okay. I got it wrong. All right.
But it's the Emma S. Clark Library in East Setauket. It's gorgeous. It's really cool.
Oh, I got to check it out.
Yeah.
Cool. There's a lot of talent in the waters around Setauket, Stony Brook, and that whole 9 yards. I mean, I can count on both hands the number of artists I talked to from that area.
Nice.
Something in the water. But before we end up, I really want to ask you, because I thought it was so cool, and I'll put the link in the description, this Dreamland Studios. What a cool place. It's up in Hurley, New York, which is a stone's throw from Woodstock, and it's an old church.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell me about your experience there.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a story there, too.
Of course, you're a storyteller.
Of course, there's always some sort of nonsense happening. I had just graduated college, and I put together this little bit of a hodgepodge tour with my college friends and Delaney. And my friend Jillian, who I went to Syracuse with, was working at Dreamland. And I knew I couldn't afford Dreamland.
Right.
But she was working really, really hard, and she was an assistant for many of the engineers there. And a lot of the engineers at Dreamland have their own home studios separate from Dreamland.
Sure. Yep.
And that's, something a lot of audio engineers will do. And we were working out of her boss's studio, which was in Kingston. And he went on vacation. The studio happened to be open. So we said, let's go to Kingston. And we get there and we realize that he took the iLock for the computer, which is basically a key so that you'd be able to record music. So we were not able to record music, which is a problem when you're recording music.
Right. And you didn't have grandma's iPod with you. So
no. And we're all kind of looking around, and Jill says, give me a few minutes. I think I'm going to cash in a favor right now. So she comes back and she said, Dreamland's open. Let's go. If you guys want to do that. So we were like kids in a candy store. We just start the car, get in the car. And we knew that we only had really one day to record in Dreamland.
Right.
And we were not going to get this opportunity again. So we figured, you know what? We've been playing around a little bit. We've been touring. Let's play it live, and then we'll add stuff on top of it. And maybe, completely redirecting the direction of what that album was going to be. We thought we were going to go one by one, and, how you normally record an album, you'd start with drums and you'd kind of work your way up. But this is completely different. This is us really hoping that we know these songs well enough, because now this is how we're recording the album. So it was very cool. Because it's in a church, everybody was kind of in different rooms. So we had the big room, which was like the congregation room, had Delaney on bass, my guitar player Jackson on guitar, and my piano player Nick, who got to play on this gorgeous grand piano. And the drums were on the opposite side of the room, but they had windows in the room so we could watch each other. And then I was in this tiny little room, which I swear, I think it was the confessional room. And that also, I was able to watch the band too, but I felt like it was so fitting that they put the songwriter in the confessional.
Well, you certainly confessed a lot today, and I really appreciate it. And, just a quick aside, I just talked to two different guys. One guy's from Woodstock, Professor Louie, who produced the band's comeback.
Oh, very cool.
And his studio is in Hurley as well.
Yes.
And he produced Graham Parker, which is one of the artists as well, and Pure Prairie, New Riders of the Purple Sage, what have you. And they spoke about recording as a live band. And they do that often because they get that nuance between musicians, which is kind of cool. Hey, Sarah, you kind of blew me away here in a great way.
Yay.
In a great way.
Thank you.
I can't wait till Delaney and Pete and your dad listen to it. And
I know. We got to hide this from them. Their heads are going to get too big.
that's right. Yeah. So when I have you back on, I'll bust Dad's chops a little bit more. But you got to give me some inside info because I didn't really do my homework on your family.
I mean, that makes sense.
Anyway, so I'm so glad you're here, and we're going to sign off. And as I say to everybody, keep your spirits high, be generous with your joy, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well, everyone.
Yeah.